There are many whites who are trying to solve the problem, but you never see them going under the label of liberals. That white person that you see calling himself a liberal is the most dangerous thing in the entire Western Hemisphere. He's the most deceitful. He's like a fox, and a fox is always more dangerous in the forest than the wolf. You can see the wolf coming. You know what he's up to, but the fox will fool you. He comes at you with his mouth shaped in such a way that even though you see his teeth, you think he's smiling, and you take him for a friend.
Hey, welcome back. It's your man Wise, and today I have a great video to share with you guys. Listen, I don't understand what's going on at these college campuses. It's a mess, but we do know that if you do not have conversations with your children on a regular, I'm not saying this has to be on a day-to-day, but when you send your kids off to college, they may come back sounding, looking, and talking like this individual we're about to see here. Before we get into the video, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment down below. I appreciate all the love and support. And before we get going, we must have a word from our sponsor, Child Light Candles. Please support Child Light Candles today. Link in the description box below. These candles are amazing. Support a veteran-owned, family-owned, American-based organization. These are 16-ounce candles with a plethora of fragrances to choose from. My favorite right now is the Black Cherry Merlot and the Frankincense and Myrrh. Buy 5 candles, keep 2, give 3 away as gifts. You have no idea what you're doing for this family and this small business. You guys know small business is the bedrock. It's the foundation of this nation. Please support Child Light Candles today. Fragrances lit for the kingdom.
I noticed you're wearing an American Lives Matter shirt. What is your message to this audience right now by wearing that t-shirt? What is your intended message?
Well, I think that we should put Americans above foreigners.
You know that the whole point of, the movement, like, that came with Lives Matter was originally for Black Lives Matter?
Yes, I'm intentionally appropriating it. Yeah.
And are you trying to eliminate the movement, Black Lives Matter? Are you trying to not bring attention to it?
I mean, well, BLM is not exactly a movement that I would be associated with, but I believe all lives matter. American lives matter. If you're a Black American, Hispanic American, I don't care. All Americans' lives matter. Would
you take the time to recognize a group of people who have been marginalized historically and who are now asking for the same rights, the same privileges as white people in the society by
what rights do white people have that blacks don't?
So the issue is, it's not necessarily written in the law.
Oh, so it's like hidden.
That's the whole point. That's how marginalizing works.
Oh, so it's kind of like, it's like a ghost. You see it one day and you don't. And
because you as a white privileged person with money have never seen it, doesn't mean it doesn't
exist. What privilege do I as a white person have that a black person doesn't? What can a white person do in America that a black person cannot do? Be specific. Name one thing.
So there are so many issues in our society.
Name one thing. No, I got to drill you in. Name one thing a white person can do that a black person cannot do.
So the issue is racism, okay? You can technically do it, but your life may be put at risk if you find yourself in certain areas where you might not be accepted by your race, and then your life might be in danger.
Okay, what is racism? Can you define to me what racism is?
Racism, well, I don't have the exact description as it is seen in like AP style or like Wikipedia.
Can you just talk in the mic, please? I'm sorry, yeah.
Sorry. Racism is the lack of opportunities because of a race, the kind of like putting a person to a side.
So can you name a single example in the last 20 years where blacks were discriminated en masse, where they've been put aside? Can you give me a specific example?
You can simply talk about police brutality and mass incarceration.
What percentage of murders do black Americans commit in America?
So there you have a point of there is over policing in black communities,
Wait, no,
specifically
murders.
lower income communities.
Wait, blacks commit murders because of police? I'm not talking about murders of police.
You're twisting my words.
So why do blacks commit so many murders?
They don't.
So they're 13% of the population, and they do 55% of the murders in America.
So
why?
You're not even looking at the background of it. There is over-policing in lower-income communities.
There's under-policing in lower-income communities. Number two, you're trying to say that over-policing, even if that existed, which it doesn't, leads to the fact that 13% of the U.S. population accounts for 55% of the murders?
There is a target on people of color's backs, okay? So when a white person sees a person of color...
Prove it.
There is studies, there is research
No,
about
give me one example. Give me one piece of evidence that there's a target on black people's back. In fact, I will submit to you there's the opposite. Black students can get into this college with lower test scores than white students. It's called affirmative action.
So now white people are the people who are struggling?
No.
Are they the marginalized ones?
I will go back to this, though. Can you name a specific example of what a black person cannot do that a white person can do? And be, again, specific. Anything.
I'm talking about so racism as a whole is not written in the law because that's not allowed anymore. But it still exists.
Then give me an example.
I just told you.
You said police brutality is your example. Why do you think blacks encounter police so much? They commit more crimes.
There is
and not just like a little bit more
policing.
No, there's under policing. And how could you say such a thing? We have defunded the police in Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, largely defunded it. We saw crime rates go up.
I also want you to take in mind that when a whole group their opportunities to succeed economically, let's say they don't get that higher paying job because they chose a white person instead of a black person, that makes
Show me an example of where that happened recently.
Wait, that makes an entire community more prone to being lower income, and then that is lower income communities are directly related to like more crime activity.
But let me ask you a question. What percentage of young blacks have both a mom and a dad raising them?
I cannot think of a percentage right now to give you.
25%. So only 1 out of 4 blacks in America have a mom and a dad around. Do you think that is a bigger issue to address than racism? Do you think more dads is a better solution, or tackling racism, which you say you can't even see in our laws?
How could dads be connected directly?
Dads are very connected.
What about,
when you have a dad around, you're less likely to be violent as a male, less likely to go to prison.
So explain to me why all the fathers are leaving.
Exactly. Why are they leaving?
Question for you.
Because black women married the government and divorced the men that they were once with.
Whoa. Shout out to Charlie Kirk for just sitting there and debating with morons. Wow, for lack of better words. We have an entire generation that seems to think that they are 10 to 20 times smarter than everybody else and than what they actually are. It is beyond me. Wow. It's crazy how she kept saying there's so much evidence. He asked her, prove it. She can't. She only has the talking points. She has the bullet points, but she doesn't have the details. And to be honest with you, what she was saying, it's wrong. It's false. It's wrong. Charlie Kirk, he hit the nail on the head with the family issue. There are a lot of crime in poor neighborhoods as well as in a number of black neighborhoods in the inner city. A lot of that is tied directly to broken homes and broken families. When dad is not around, the children are considered to be at risk. Those are facts. When a child grows up in a home without his father or her father, they're more likely to not graduate high school. They're more likely to commit crimes. They're more likely to find themselves in prison. They're more likely to have kids, not only out of wedlock, but as teenagers. The list goes on and on and on as to how important fathers is. But for some reason in these colleges, they seem to think that fathers are not important. And I would assume that a lot of those kids that are in college actually grew up with a father in their home. I had a conversation with a young brother maybe a year or so ago where he was debating that fathers don't matter. And he grew up with his father, and his brothers grew up with their father, and they're all a success. No telling what these kids would be had they grown up in the same situation, but it wasn't dad, it was mom. It's beyond me. This defund the police, in my opinion, it has been one of the most evil practices that I've seen in quite some time, because they defunded the police, they've demonized the police, and now crime is skyrocketing in the very communities that need the police. She kept saying racism and all this. There's nothing in America that we can't do. I'm not going to sit here and say racism don't exist, but it's not as prevalent to where it will stop you or stunt your growth. It just isn't. But again, liberal college student, just as Brother Malcolm said, they think they're helping, but they're hurting. Or they know they're not helping. They know that they're hurting. But again, this is another young person. I would assume she doesn't know black people. If she has a black friend, she has one. She did not grow up around black people, so she has no idea really what she's talking about. These are the talking points of her professors who continue to push oppression and victimhood on black people, as well as pump the minds of college students with this foolery. This is the greatest nation in the world. This is the one place in the world that you can start at the bottom 10% and work your way to the top 10%, regardless of your race. I seen my parents start at the bottom. You heard what I said, parents. I grew up with a man and a woman in my house. My mother and my stepfather. I'm not saying they were perfect, but they were there. I'm not saying they were perfect, but they took care of us. I'm not saying that they were perfect, but I watched them build something together. I know where we came from. I'm the oldest of my siblings. I know where we came from. I know where we started. And I know where they ended up at. Thank the Lord they're still alive. And if you've seen where we started and had the chance to go look at where they are today, you wouldn't believe it. Maybe you would. If you're this lady, she definitely wouldn't believe it. Families matter. I'm one of those people. I want to see some form of incentive to get people to marry, especially in the black community, but in all actuality, every community, because our numbers are down. We're not marrying nowhere near at the clip we used to. We're not having children nowhere near at the clip we need to. When you look at the black family, like he said, 1 in 4 kids grow up in a nuclear family. 75% almost, and I think the number is a little more than, I believe it's like 77% of children, black children, are growing up in single parent-led households. And typically it's a single mother-led household. Now, what we do know is that when dad is leading the household, that situation is actually a lot better for the children than if it's mom. But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. But this lady has no idea what she's talking about. And I wish she would keep her comments to herself. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment down below. I appreciate all the love and support. Keep God first in your life. Stay prayed up. It's crazy out there. America first, and I'm going to catch up with you all next time. Peace.